I don't like saying this week. This is This Week in Comics.
Then
what do I say instead of that?
Welcome to This Week in Comics.
Oh, okay, very good. All right.
You don't have to say this is.
Yeah, very good. Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Comics. My name is Ewell Carter and I own Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California. Let's see what the top 5 comics we sold last week were. Coming in at number 5 this week, we have Ms. Marvel number 31. This is actually the 50th cumulative issue of the Ms. Marvel series. At number 4 this week, we have Black Panther number 2. I will be reviewing this comic a little later in the show. And now begins the Image Bloodbath. Coming in at number 3, we have Wicked and Divine number 37. Coming in at number 2, we have Sex Criminals number 25. And taking the top spot this week, it's no surprise, it's Saga number 53. Excellent issue. One more to go before the arc is finished. I've only got a few reviews for you this week, but let's check them out right now. First up this week, we have a brand new number 1 from Dark Horse Comics called Modern Fantasy. It's written by Rafer Roberts with art by Kristen Gudsnuck. I'm personally not familiar with these creators, so let me just tell you what this book is about. Sage of the Riverlands is a young millennial who gains possession of a medallion that her friends stole. She doesn't know they stole it, but she knows they're shady, and the people they took it from are even shadier, and now they're looking for it. This book is pretty good if you like that type of story. The other aspect that goes on into making this book is all the fantasy puns. Like, these people don't shop at Macy's, they shop at Mace's. And they don't have an iPhone, they have an iScroll. And they watch Keeping Up with the Kobolds instead of the Kardashians, and so on and so forth. I personally am not a big fan of puns. I let those type of stories go ever since my Piers Anthony days. The artwork in this comic book is quaint. That's how I call it. People that detract might call it Cal art style. If you can explain what that means, let me know in the comments down below. I felt this was a comic that was a little... didn't know what it wanted to be. You got all those puns that make me think that you're aiming for a younger readership, but then you have all these sexual conquests and fights and drug usage that makes me think it's not for a younger reader. So this comic really doesn't know what it wants to be. I don't think I'll be looking forward to it in future issues, but if any of these things are things that you enjoy, you might try picking it up. Next up this week, we have Black Panther number 2. This is a new story written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. It features a guy named T'Challa in space. He recently gained his freedom and a name because slaves don't have names, and he is now working for the Resistance. And in this issue, he flies a spaceship in space and shoots up a whole bunch of people. It's very reminiscent of like Star Wars or things like that. And if you are a fan of dogfights in outer space, this is definitely a comic you should be checking out because it is almost the entire comic book. At the very end, probably about like 3/4 of it. Towards the end, we do get to meet the main big bad guy and we see what the rebels are after. So there is a little bit of story that takes place, but most of it is just shoot 'em up. And I personally am not that big a fan of it. It is obvious that this is a comic book that was written for the entire trade or maybe the entire series, and we're supposed to take that as a whole. So taking this piecemeal approach of action, it just doesn't really work for me. It feels more like a Dragon Ball thing where you might have one fight that goes over the course of many episodes or manga, you know, and if that's something you're looking for, that's good. I personally am looking for something a little bit more from Ta-Nehisi Coates. I have heard he's such a great writer, but his earlier Black Panther series really left me wanting some sort of story. It was just a whole bunch of, what do we call it, world building. And in this one, even though there's a lot of action, I'm still wondering where the story is. There is no meat in this sandwich, but maybe in trade we'll find it. The last comic I'm going to review this week is the Sentry #1. I recommended checking it out in last week's episode, but I was very hesitant because I'm not a fan of the Sentry. You see, he's a retcon character where we had all our Marvel past that we all know and love, but he got slotted into it. And we have to believe that the Fantastic Four and the Avengers and Spider-Man had adventures with this guy, even though I've read all the issues that came before him. So that's the reason why I'm not a big Sentry fan. Every issue that he's been involved in has been pretty good, even in the past. Usually there's very good illustrators that work on the book. This one's no different. Kim Jacinta is fantastic. Jeff Lemire is the reason why I really wanted to read this book, because I wanted to see if he could take a character that I had no interest in reading and if I'd be willing to read future issues. And I gotta say, I am willing to read future issues. This one leaves us on a cliffhanger, and that aspect of it definitely makes me want to know where the second issue is going. Also, Jeff Lemire, I want to check out his second issues because those always seem to be even better than his first issues, so I'm really excited to see if that's the case. Maybe I can become a Sentry fan. Ultimately, this story is about Bob Reynolds, a guy that has two personalities, the Sentry, which is the good, and then the Void, which is the bad. And every time he becomes unhinged or falls down, the Void comes into our world and causes all sorts of havoc. At the end of this issue, somebody has taken the device that Bob uses to go into this pocket universe where his Sentry personality hangs out, and all sorts of bad things happened. Again, I'm really looking forward to see what happens in the second issue. I'm still not a fan of this character, but Jeff Lemire at least has one more issue to go as far as I'm concerned. A bunch of #1s coming out this week, plus the wedding we've all been waiting for. First up this week we have Quantum Age from the world of Black Hammer. This is set in the far future, featuring superheroes that take their cue from the heroes from the farm. There's a lot of mystery that's still going to be involved in this book relating to the normal Black Hammer series that we all are reading, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to this one. It's obviously written by Jeff Lemire with art by Wilfredo Torres. He recently did Legion for Marvel. Even more importantly, Dave Stewart is going to be doing the coloring, and he's fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to Quantum Age, and you should too. Next up, we have Donny Cates doing 2 books. I'm just going to tell you what they are, and you should pay attention to this, really. We have the Death of the Inhumans. The Inhumans. Marvel keeps trying things with them. Looks like they're going to kill them off, and Donny Cates is just the guy to do it. It's going to have some artwork by Ariel Olivetti, and I like that person's artwork quite a bit. He's also doing the Cosmic Ghostrider miniseries. It's 5 issues. It's going to have that Jeff Shaw guy that did Thanos with him on covers. Who cares who's doing the art? It's Donny Cates. Buy this book. Next up, we have Batman #50. This is the long-awaited wedding issue between Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Catwoman, Selina Kyle. Will they or won't they actually end up tying the knot? That remains to be seen, but there was a comic not too long ago that asked that same question, and they did not get married. So, I have been wondering about this for quite some time, even before that other book. And now we're going to finally find out. It's going to have art by Mikel Janin with obviously the same writer, Tom King, since issue #1. This has been a pretty darn good series, and I recommend checking this out. And also the next book I'm going to be talking about. And that next book is Catwoman #1. She's getting her own series. I assume it's right after whatever is going on in Batman #50. The key thing about this, other than the wedding, is that Joelle Jones is going to be writing. She is well known for her beautiful artwork in previous Supergirl and Scarlet Witch issues that she's done and all sorts of covers. But now she's going to be doing interiors with a new Catwoman outfit and doing the writing. Can an artist write? That's always the question, and I'm excited to find out, and you should be too. Check out Catwoman #1. Last but not least, we have Captain America #1 out this July 4th. The last series just ended and a brand new one is starting up with Ta-Nehisi Coates writing this book. Lionel Yu is going to be doing the art, and I expect some really big things from this book. Probably some controversial things too, since that's Coates' nature. I'm excited to see a new take on Captain America, or just a strong traditional take on Captain America. As long as the rehabilitation of this character continues or tries to take place, it seems that the last 3 years of Captain America's existence has been one we all want to forget. So hopefully Ta-Nehisi Coates can do that, if only because his name's on the book. It should look really good, and it's going to have some covers by Alex Ross. So this is definitely a book to be picking up this 4th of July. You can read it and then shoot some fireworks off. And if you don't like it, you can do it at the book. That's it for this week, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this show, or if you just want to lie about liking it, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you have any suggestions or just want to have a little bit of a conversation with me, let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to hit the bell for notifications, and we'll see you next week.